going on, everybody? Welcome in Woodward Bets on a Wednesday here in beautiful Metro Detroit. Scott, we get another nice day of weather here. We got tons of sports to talk about here on the show. Thank you to everybody for tuning in once again. We'll also have a special guest joining us to talk more about our new sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. So excited about that. So stay tuned for that here at some point during the show. Scott, how are you, my man? How's your Wednesday going so far?
You hit the nail on the head when you say a nice day here in Metro Detroit. It's absolutely outstanding outside. I wish we could just kind of freeze this weather all the time and just keep it all year round, man. This weather is really nice. I was already out this morning just finishing up the yard work and doing everything I need to do and getting all that situated. So rather do that now than freeze my ass off in the winter, which I usually do. But yeah, excited to have our guest on today. I got a few guys I need to pick up on my waiver wires tonight, which I know we like to talk about here on Wednesday. So, but yeah, I can't complain. I will say though, Chris, I know I was telling you, man, I felt really good about myself today. As we talked about, I had a pretty nice little score. Won some lunch money on some DFS on DK the other day, which I hardly ever get on DK, Chris. I'm always on FanDuel. I've played 10 years, and I'm 99.9% of my action has been on FanDuel. Got on DK and won a little money over the weekend, had some in my account. Next thing I know, I turned my couple hundred into $5,000 on for some baseball and was at Subway today and paid forward a couple people's lunches today. So that felt really good when you walk out of there. I was feeling good about myself. So I do encourage that. It is a great feeling. So, yeah, always if you would have been in Subway today, my friend Chris, you probably got a sub too. But, yeah, I know the other people were pretty happy today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in karma. So anytime you get a chance to do things like that, definitely try to take advantage. Stuff comes around, man. The more positive energy, the better. You know, there's a lot of people out there with negative energy at the little force field. Don't have time for it. Love to hear that, Scott. So kind of a slow day here in the sports calendar. Obviously, we'll talk a lot of NFL today. Like you said, we'll talk some waivers, update the injury report. Trying to take an early look at some things in the NFL. Baseball, Scott, my heart is broken. My Brewers are out. I know you had a bet on them as well. A lot of questions why they didn't pitch Burns yesterday on the road. Apparently he wasn't ready to go, so it wasn't a managerial decision. But the Braves advancing. I said I didn't love that matchup. Atlanta was a team I was definitely concerned with. So congratulations to them. Some other teams advance as well, so we'll kind of hit on baseball. Next game is tomorrow night. NHL in full swing. Neither of us are going to pretend to be NHL experts, but we will have some best bets in the NHL for you towards the end of the show. And, of course, NBA season coming up rapidly. I believe it's 6 days away, so big fan of the NBA, so we'll have a lot of content for that each and every day for you guys as well. Some of the housekeeping stuff, make sure you guys check out our new Twitter page at Woodward Bets. Also follow the network at Woodward Sports. You can follow Scott at G_Risen, and I am at Beer Makers Fan. And we love hearing from you guys. So today we're going to talk some KMA. That's our Wednesday segment. And for every Friday, we're going to discuss your trades, sit-start questions as well. So you can send all of that our way again at Woodward Bets on Twitter. So Scott, let's get into a little bit here. Let's talk about some pickups. You know, last night some waivers ran. I know a lot of people's run on Wednesday. I'm sure you and Beastie covered it pretty thoroughly yesterday, but let's go over some of the names again and some of the bigger names. Obviously, the running back position, Devontae Booker, going to be in a good spot here for a few weeks, potentially without Saquon Barkley. Same thing for Daryl Williams and Jerick McKinnon even in Kansas City. Some whispers out there that Marlon Mack to Kansas City could be in the works here as well. But I still think those guys are big pickups. Khalil Herbert, a guy we saw be very involved in that Chicago backfield along with Damian Williams. And we're kind of seeing the breakout here for Kadarius Toney as well. That entire offense is injured. He himself is injured, but we'll see. He's somebody that should be out on a lot of waiver wires as well. So a lot of mine ran last night. I got Daryl Williams in a lot. I feel better about him longer term than I do with a guy like Devontae Booker. So he was definitely a target for me last night. So he was my main target in a lot of leagues. So any waivers last night, Scott? Any guys you want to add to the list here And what are we looking at for your waivers here running tonight?
Yeah, I'm not in as quite as many teams as you. I don't know if I could keep up with what you have over there, which is quite amazing. As you said, it's like a job in itself. But on a couple teams I had, I actually looked and I was surprised Taylor Heineke was on the waiver wire. So I actually picked him up, and I plan on using him this week against the Chiefs. So I was pretty excited this morning when I opened up my that app and saw that I was awarded Taylor there. The Chiefs obviously been getting up quite a few yards as we've seen, so I was pretty excited about that one. But yeah, my main ones are actually tonight, and yeah, there's a handful of running backs there that I got a middle of the round pick there, so I had to load up maybe 4 or 5 guys. So if I end up with maybe like a Booker or maybe some a Khalil, somebody like that, maybe I'll be happy with it. But I don't expect to get somebody like Daryl Williams unless a couple people are sleeping at the wheel.
Yeah, and I think, again, McKinnon is a guy we saw get very involved there. So I don't even hate a backup bid for McKinnon. Other names, like you mentioned, Tyler Heineke in a fantastic spot this week. Kansas City just hemorrhaging points to the quarterback position. In fact, nobody's given up more fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks than Kansas City. We saw Heineke have a down game, but before that, Scott, he was pretty damn good. He's going to get out there and wing the ball around. So that one should be a shootout. I love Heineke. I love McLaurin bouncing back this week. Another potential waiver wire ad at the dumpster fire we call tight end. Ricky Seals-Jones had a pretty big target share in that game. In fact, bigger than any Logan Thomas has seen this season. So he's another name out there at a very difficult position here this week. So let's update some of the injuries here as well. We talk about the Giants. Kadarius Toney was back at practice today, so that's an encouraging sign for him, dealing with a little bit of ankle injury. Sounds like Sterling Shepard also going to be back, Scott, but the problem is no Daniel Jones at practice today, still working through the concussion protocol. No Saquon Barkley, as we'd expect. I think he's going to miss a few weeks here. So this Giants team kind of iffy here on who's even going to play. I think a guy like Evan Ingram could be interesting here as well. So quick thoughts here on the Giants. Kind of a mash unit right now with all these injuries.
Yeah, talk about injury issues there for sure. I mean, Giant fan, they got to be pretty frustrated with that. But Toney, I don't know if you guys saw any of him. If anybody's seen him, I mean, there was some talk about him and Tyreek Hill being in a game of tag, like trying to catch each other. Like those two are just two shifty, quick dudes. So he did act like a fool and punch a guy, and he looks like he's got some issues with keeping his temper under control. But hey, Toney did put up some points. If you had him in your lineups last week, good chance you did cash, because I would assume as cheap as he was, you probably went with some Devontae Adams and some higher priced guys. But yeah, I mean, it's without Barkley. We kind of talked yesterday. Barkley looked like he taped a softball to his ankle, so that looked like that's gonna be a little lingering injury there. But yeah, I mean, them targets got to go somewhere, so we're gonna see what happens. But yeah, I like Toney moving forward for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy looks electric. He's one of those guys who get the ball in his hands, and we saw flashes of that at Florida. I mean, this kid was electric. There's a reason he was a first-round pick. So we'll keep an eye on that one. T.Y. Hilton returns to practice today. We'll see if he's going to be activated here. They have a couple weeks to get to that. Locally, T.J. Hawkinson still dealing with an injury, Scott, and you can kind of tell when he's out there. It doesn't look the same as we saw the first couple weeks of the season. So clearly banged up. Makes sense for them to sit him out. So thoughts on that real quick. Hawkinson, Cephas. I mean, the Lions are running out of pass catchers, Scott. You may get a phone call here soon, or even Braylon. Maybe they need to bring Braylon back and suit him up here for the Lions playing some wide out this week.
I'll tell you what, I saw Braylon last week, and if he's not in good enough shape to play in the NFL, I don't know who is, because then if he is, I'm way far away from being in shape to play in the NFL. That dude's just a beast, man. I was looking at him thinking, how's these little D-backs tackling this guy? I mean, Braylon's arms are as big as my legs. I mean, Braylon's a pretty big dude. But, yeah, the Lions are definitely hurting. Quentin Cephas, that one hurt. Your Wisconsin boy getting injured there. You know, but I think that offense is just going to struggle. And, I mean, to me, the only guy really worth having is Swift at this point, because he seems to be game script proof, where he's getting a lot of dump offs. But Seems like Hawkinson's the guy the other teams are trying to take out of the game. So definitely, I'm worried about Hawkinson. I got him in some other shares season long and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's just going to be hit or miss. I don't really see any consistency there.
Some other big names hitting the injury report here on Wednesday. No Antonio Gibson at practice. We know he's been dealing with a stress fracture, so we'll see if he's able to play through that. Sometimes guys can work through it, sometimes they can't, but he did not practice today. No Tyreek Hill either on Wednesday, so definitely have to keep an eye on that, dealing with a little bit of a quad injury. And then back to the Giants. Sounds like not only will they have Shepard back, but also Darius Slayton plans on playing this week. He returned to practice today. And lastly, Thursday Night Football, no Rob Gronkowski as expected for Tampa Bay. So we will talk more Thursday Night Football, more injuries tomorrow, but we have a special guest joining us now from Underdog Fantasy, Josh Norris, joining the Woodward Bets here to give us more information on Underdog. And Josh, welcome into the show. I know it's a big time for you guys, for NFL in full swing, NBA, NHL starting up. So welcome, my man. How we doing today?
Doing great. Sorry, I had a big head mode there for a little bit. Tried to back up, zoom out just a little bit. How's everyone doing today? Heard you talking about Kadarius Toney. I mean, it's so much fun to see players like that who, when they get their opportunity, just look different than everyone else. And I think that there's like a lot of optimism moving forward with Toney, because at first, in those first 2 weeks, 36 out of 46 of his snaps were in the slot. Then in week 4, it was 31 out of 50. And so you just assumed, well, when Sterling Shepard comes back, does that just mean Toney gets put on the sideline? And I think once the special sauce is out of the bottle, you really can't put it back in. But then also in week 5 that we saw just 12 of his 37 snaps were in the slot. So I really think they're grooming him to get him on the field in every single scenario as an outside receiver. And as you guys said, he can win at any alignment you put him out there as. So I'm excited to see what Toney does for the rest of the season, especially in best ball formats when he really was just a round 17 or 18 selection back in August.
Yeah, he's one of those picks late in your draft that a lot of people had concerns about, but if you took the chance on him, those are the picks that are going to pay off for you. My worry, Josh, is probably the worry a lot of people have is Jason Garrett steering the ship there with that Giants offense, and is he going to hold Kadarius Toney back? Does he even know what he has there with him? But like you said, it was really fun to see guys like that really start to spread their wings, and fun to see Underdog Fantasy spread their wings as well. Josh, why don't you give the people a little bit more of a rundown here? I mean, I love Underdog, play a ton, and a lot of people think it's just best ball in the preseason for NFL, but you guys have in-season stuff, and again, NBA, NHL season's kicking off. So what are some of the big things going down at Underdog right now?
Yeah, let's just focus on football real quick. Just for the next really 24 hours, we have midseason best ball going on. It's called Best Ball Resurrection. I'll pull it up here on my phone so all of you guys can check it out too. There it is. 6% left for all of you. I know many of you and your listeners have done well in their fantasy football season. Some of them maybe not so much because of injuries. So this is just week 6 to week 17. You can draft right now, and it's really crazy to go through these drafts because the information that we have in terms of opportunity and workload and how successful these teams are, it changes everything. And in my opinion, running back start makes the most sense because there's a lot of, misunderstandings at that spot heading into the year, but now that's more defined. And with these picks, I mean, you have to take people you hate, to be honest with you, picks you dislike, because we can kind of paint that picture, and create the narrative, back in August for the rest of the season for all the picks that we make and say they're going to be successful. That's not the case now when you draft, a lot of these teams across the league. But obviously we always have pick 'em too. It's really fun in terms of getting 5 correct. You get 20 extra money. So it's been a great season so far. Offerings like you mentioned with NBA, NHL, all that good stuff. So there's something out there for everyone if you're just a fan of one sport or every sport as well.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to redraft right now? We've all felt the injury sting and some of these guys. Right, exactly. And you always have those guys in your league that, man, if I would have only picked this guy or I would have avoided this guy, well, now's your chance to kind of do it all over, reshuffle the cards and deal them out again. So, Scott, any questions here for Josh? Again, real excited to be partnering with Underdog Fantasy here at Woodward Bets. Reminder, promo code WSN. Josh was showing you $10 entry. Guess what? We're going to give you a free $10 with the $10 deposit. So jump in and take advantage of that tournament. It looks like a lot of fun. Scott, what do you got for Josh here today?
Well, Josh, a lot of our listeners, I know usually when, you may see BRI, we're on different platforms where we have players at different skill level. I think we have a lot of novice type players and sports bettors that may be listening to us here with the Woodward Bets. But so I guess if I'm somebody new to the sports betting industry, which it's been legalized here now maybe for like a year, and a lot of people have questions about what's the difference, because I've tried to explain to some people about Underdog. What's the difference between Underdog fantasy and a sports book? And I try to explain to them it's a lot about player props, stuff like that, where instead of DFS where you're picking out a lineup, you can either do a draft. I was trying to explain to them the many different ways that they can enjoy themselves on your platform. And I was actually telling Beer last week, I had a buddy come over. He doesn't hardly ever bet. I mean, if he did, he'd probably bet $1 on things. Very, he's just not really into it. But he got on Underdog, used the free $10, and I think he ended up winning 110. He was excited as a pig in shit. He was just ecstatic about it, and it was good for me to see. I was like, hey, that's awesome, and I'm sure this week he's probably going to have another one, but, it was good to see just somebody new coming in and having some success right away. So I guess, for everybody, can you kind of just explain it from like a dumbed down version maybe to people, like what they could expect?
So to me, it's the closest thing to playing fantasy football, but like on a weekly basis, right? Because with fantasy football, it's all about projections on if you think, I don't know, Kareem Hunt is going to combine for 70 rushing and receiving yards, or like over and under a half a touchdown for DeAndre Hopkins. If you think he's going to find the end zone, then you get that. I mean, the pick'em lobby is just a ton of fun over there on Underdog. I mean, as you can see now on Thursday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles defense, Tom Brady over under 300.5 passing yards, or Leonard Fournette 68.5 rushing yards, now that he basically has the rushing volume all to himself. And so, as you know, you can pick two from opposite teams. That gets you a 3X, 3 6X, 4 10X. It sounds like your friend did that. And then 5 correct gets you a 20X. And I also want to throw out this. We mentioned the over-unders. It's player props, basically. It's fantasy projections. It's really just looking at one player and combining that with others. Rivals is a lot of fun. To me, Rivals is the section that is most underappreciated on our team. You can see this receiving yards, 4.5. Antonio Brown is getting over Chris Godwin. We have seen Antonio Brown, this past weekend get shadowed by Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins, one of the best corners in the NFL, and absolutely roast him. And so to me, that's an area where a lot of people can dip their toe in the water in terms of just these pick'em lines over on Underdog. And be sure to check out the Rivals tab. Does that kind of answer your question, what you're hoping for?
Yeah. I think because people just they're looking at it and they don't quite understand, just for the basic kind of guy. So, I think if you like you said, you like to play fantasy football, you can pick out a couple scenarios that you think may go over their, catch total, receiving total, rushing total, right, touchdown total. If you get those right, like you said, you start adding more 3X, 4, 10X you can get up to if you get 4 right. So yeah, instead of you have, getting on the some of these DFS sites, you got to, use a salary cap and a lineup. So you're basically on this one here, just picking out scenarios or props that you think are going to go over or under. If you get them right, it's like a parlay, basically like a sports bet. So you're just basically combining fantasy sports and sports betting in a sense.
Imagine that. Sounds fun to me.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So. But I just I've been asked a few times. So I guess, just for our novice listeners, I just wanted to kind of ask like a basic type question.
Of course.
Yeah, and it's very, very user friendly. You guys have done an amazing job. You get on there and there's something for everybody. It's what I like. Like you said, there's so many different games and styles of games and different buy-ins. And, some people are afraid of DFS or sports betting. They don't have the budget for it. I mean, you can play for as little as $1 and, like Scott's buddy, $10 into over 100, just like that. So something for everybody. Now, Josh, while we got you, I've been following your work for a long time. I know you're a big football guy. So we've been doing our listeners a disservice if we didn't get some of your thoughts on things that are going around in the NFL, as a whole for this week specifically. So I want to open that up, but did you want to talk about the NBA product at all on Underdog coming up? I know NBA
Let's
is
stick to NFL.
Thing. Okay, we'll stick with the NFL then. So let's take a look at the NFL. So we have weeks of data now. Any surprises out there for you? Any guys like Kadarius Toney that our season-long owners should be going out and trying to grab? So just kind of overall thoughts here on the NFL. So far, it's been a fun ride. Injuries and missed field goals have really been the story thus far.
Yeah, let's keep it close to home, and let's talk about the Lions versus Bengals matchup, and mainly on the Bengals end. They've been fascinating and frustrating at the exact same time, because how they've invested so much in their offense in terms of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in the top 10, and T. Higgins is a second-round pick and a big contract for Tyler Boyd. Yet their neutral pace, despite what they did last year, is among the lowest in the league. Their expected pass rate is one of the lowest in the league. And Seth Galina, who works it over at PFF, explained this perfectly. And we know Zach Taylor's history is in that Sean McVay tree, that he's basically constructing an offense as if it's a Sean McVay table of contents of, okay, we're going to throw out of empty, or we're going to run outside zone, but not understand like the nuances or the rhythm or the tactics in calling those formations and alignments and plays. So what you're getting is kind of an offense that is handcuffing itself in some ways. And now that's not to say that Jamar Chase isn't going to continue what he's doing. He absolutely is. In fact, he's probably running hot in how he's being utilized right now. I think he only has 12 targets, 20 plus yards down the field. He's caught half of those, so 6, and then 4 touchdowns on those 6 catches. But those are like the only downfield plays that this team is attempting to make. So like just asking Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to win one-on-one without like manufacturing anything helpful out of that, I think that, that brings a little bit of concern for just the rest of the season to me for the Bengals. And I know they're 3-2. I know that makes Cincinnati ecstatic, but I truly think like deep down, they have some concern for Joe Burrow's health. And he's not as mobile as he once was. And a lot of concern for this offensive line that leads them to run the football a lot. Now, do I think like the Lions are the team to, frustrate them and constrict them this week? Probably not. But that's just something to keep in mind as we move forward, where you're starting Jamar Chase every single week. But with all 3 of these pass catchers involved, plus Joe Mixon, the healthier he gets, I'm not so sure if every single one of those is going to hit home like they were drafted as kind of like the AFC version of the Dallas Cowboys this offseason.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people expected, all those guys to just smash and Joe Burrow to be an MVP candidate and Mixon, and it's tough to get everybody there. It seems like Tyler Boyd, the guy that's going to kind of be left out when everybody's healthy, but you're right. So what about guys we should go out and buy in our season-long leagues? Do you see any buy low opportunities? We know running backs this week, guys like Devontae Booker, Daryl Williams. So if you want to touch on those guys, even maybe a Jerick McKinnon, reaching a little bit deeper there in that Kansas City player pool. Hell, even Marlon Mack. It seems like the Colts are running him out there as an audition for a trade. So who are some guys that you're kind of eyeing up on the waiver wire and this week and moving forward?
Rashad Bateman. I'm really excited for Rashad Bateman to get back into this Baltimore Ravens team. Now, I don't know if like the exact same game plan that they had heading into the offseason with him maybe even being like the centerpiece of that passing game is going to transpire once he gets back into the lineup, because he's going to have to earn opportunities, even though he, by all accounts, was doing really well in the preseason. But what we've seen from Lamar Jackson in the past couple of years, obviously 2019, he was the MVP. Last season, I think we can say now he just didn't play that well, but the rushing was still there from that MVP campaign. But the biggest difference was that he just wasn't successful as like a clean pocket, in-pocket quarterback. And typically that's like what is, most consistent and sticky year over year. And then now we get to 2021. And as you both know, he has like transcended his game. And he's always been a quality thrower. But now it's areas of the field that he typically wasn't good at in the past, mainly down the field and especially outside the numbers. I don't know about you, and if I was going to play Best Ball Resurrection, I'd have a lot more shares of Marquise Brown moving forward than I did this offseason. But I almost wrote off the Ravens, after week 2 with all the injuries that were hitting. They're on like their 4th running back and so on and so forth, right? But what Rashad Bateman can do is be like this outside to inside presence. And we talk about some of the best offenses in the league all the time with the Cardinals and the Rams and the Bills and the Bucks. And they all have 2 or 3 or even sometimes 4 passing game or offensive weapons outside the quarterback that we are comfortable starting on a weekly basis. With how Lamar Jackson is playing right now, we have Marquise Brown, we have Mark Andrews, and it wouldn't shock me at all if Rashad Bateman gets enough opportunity where we might get to that point in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks' time, because he's that type of talent, and that's why they prioritized him in the first round ahead of all the other needs on this team.
Yeah, I think he'll be what they wanted Sammy Watkins to be, who we know just can't stay healthy in that offense. But you're right, Lamar Jackson really proving the doubters wrong. He's not just a guy that's going to run. Just was electric throwing the ball. It was nice to see Andrews get involved more. And you're right, Hollywood Brown, a guy that I've kind of always avoided in my season-long leagues just for the boom bust, ups, downs. He's your typical best ball player, people like to say. But he's really refined his game and starting to evolve as well right before our eyes. But Bateman will be a welcome addition to that team, so I love that call. Scott, got any questions here for Josh while we got him here?
Yeah, Josh, I was just curious. I'm assuming you play quite a bit of DFS, I would assume, correct?
So I mainly stick to a lot of season long and a lot of pick 'em, to be perfectly honest with you.
All right, good deal. I didn't know about. I was going to ask you about a couple DFS questions, but that's all right. So in season long, then I do have a question for you. Do you believe I had a couple guys asking me about, like, there's a situation this week with like Taylor Heineke where he's playing the Chiefs. It's a perfect stream situation, obviously. If you had like a quarterback like a Kirk Cousins, or like maybe not a top level quarterback but a mid level quarterback, are you a guy that would play a Heineke in a stream situation, or would you just stick to your guns?
I think that's a great question. The thing with Taylor Heineke is he has one of the weaker arms in the NFL, but believes he has one of the strongest, and never thinks like the play is dead. And so he's like just an absolute gamer, right? I mean, his confidence. I wish I could bottle it and take some of that, because I'd be much better at my job if that was the case. Kansas City, we've had questions about their defense every single year. And then as we get to like the most important time of the calendar, Steve Spagnuolo fixes it, right? And so they can make these runs in the playoffs. The issue is I don't know if it's fixable this season. Now, do I think Taylor Heineke is the type to take advantage of that? I think in some situations, yes. And depending on some of the health, some of the players like Chris Jones and a few others on the Chiefs defense, they do have some playmakers. But it's not like the Washington team is healthy either. Like Sam Cosmi, their starting right tackle, as a rookie, seems like he's going to be out in this game. We know about Curtis Samuel. We know about Logan Thomas. We know about Dammy Brown. Now, does this mean we can kind of funnel it to a couple playmakers? Yes. We can funnel it to Terry McLaurin, and we can funnel it to Antonio Gibson, who still had, like 70 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, despite this reported stress fracture that he's dealing with. When people hear like stress fracture, they get really nervous on a weekly basis. I don't know if we should be nervous right now, as maybe we should be in like 8 weeks or 9 weeks, as it's something that like is trending down. So this week, yes, with a high expected point total. I'm not sure how many Washington is expected this week, but I don't know if I would go like situation of focusing on Taylor Heineke, but would I start with confidence, both of those two plays, in Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin? 100% for sure.
All right, last question for you, Josh. We know you're a busy man. Was this the passing of the torch here in this Kansas City and Buffalo game? We just talked about the Chiefs, and the Bills come in and look fantastic on both sides of the ball. So as of right now, who are your AFC, NFC? Who do you see meeting in the Super Bowl? Who are the contenders? Which team? I know it's tough to call right now, but it's sometimes a lot of fun to speculate. And, is it Buffalo's time? Is there anyone that can beat Tampa Bay in the NFC? So just kind of overall thoughts here on who the contenders are in both conferences.
I think Buffalo is the most complete team in the NFL. And what happened last year was their offense, you guys know this, ran so hot that unexpectedly, a Leslie Frazier, Sean McDermott defense was not good. This year, early in the season, the defense lifted the offense. And the offense was never bad, but they just weren't running like as hot as they were last season, which is kind of expected. I mean, Josh Allen went from being like one of the worst, and we're just talking statistically, one of the worst deep ball throwers to one of the best in the NFL, and also the best inside of clean pocket situations. Now we're getting it all. Like, they truly can be top 5 on both sides of the ball, and that's really difficult to match up against for any team. Because you look at it like, yes, the Cardinals right now are like statistically and analytically having a great defense, but can you point to like more than 2 or 3 or 4 pieces and say, oh yeah, when we get into crunch time, when we get into fourth quarters against in the Super Bowl, like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, are they going to be able to make those plays? I would answer no. So yeah, I think the Bills are up there, but I always go back to the LA Rams, because this team against that Cardinals loss, there were throws to be made there, and Matthew Stafford just didn't make them. But I would, 1, count on him to do that more often. And 2, this is like a much more complete team than what we have seen in the last few years, because more things can happen offensively. Every single wide receiver and every single running back and tight end is eligible on every single snap, and they can make those plays. Plus they have, 2 unreal talents defensively, which at times when teams are chasing you in the fourth quarter is all that you need to make a disruptive play, a game sealing play. So yeah, I think the Bills and the Rams to me are the top 2 teams in the NFL at the moment.
Sounds like a fun Super Bowl to me. Scott's over there with his Tom Brady GOAT shirt, so he probably disagrees with that take. But Josh, why don't you let the people know where they can find you, what other work you got going on? I know you got a lot going on besides Underdog. I know you have a show. So where are you at on Twitter, and where can people find your work out there?
Of course, just follow me on Twitter at Josh Norris. You can check out our YouTube channel if you need even more football content. That is the Underdog Fantasy channel on YouTube. We have basketball content coming at you soon with Worldwide Wob as well. And gentlemen, great to meet you. Great to be on your show, and good luck the rest of the season, okay?
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate you stopping by and joining us. That's Josh Norris from Underdog Fantasy. Again, promo code WSN. $10 free on that $10 deposit. Tons of great offerings over there at Underdog Fantasy. So, Scott, great guy, and that's kind of the team at Underdog. It's a great group of guys. I know a lot of them personally, and it's just such a good product. So we appreciate Josh for taking some time and joining us here today.
Yeah, always fun to have different personalities from our industry to come on and talk with us, which, we want to do more. Just being able to hear different guys' perspectives on things is really important, I think, for all of us. I mean, I know you and I spend a lot of time researching things and listening to different podcasts and stuff, and, just keeping our ear to the ground to the different situations. So, I always say you're as good as the people you surround yourself with. So, having guys like Josh come on the show and everybody else is definitely a pleasure for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So really appreciate Josh jumping on. And like I said, we'll be doing plenty more, bringing people in and different guests from all different areas, just to give the people some knowledge. And that's what we're here to do, is to help you guys along your journey in fantasy, in sports betting. We want to be that hub for you to really show you the ropes. So let's take Scott. It's Wednesday. So we had a great interview there. Now we got to get into our tilted segment here. So let's talk about some of the tilting out there. I know you have a couple lined up. I'm going to throw mine out here real quick. And yeah, I ain't calling a guy out for injury, but Sammy Watkins needs a KMA. And this goes back lots of years. I mean, all the way back to his time in Buffalo, the times in Kansas City where we thought he was going to work, and he did it. In Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's throwing for 400 yards, and this guy gets hurt and just misses the over on his receiving yards the other night. I was really high on that, and ends up coming up lame. But the part that tilted me is this guy sending out tweets from the sideline during the game. Like, come on, man! Like, get back in the game. You can tweet, you can stand there and say we're going to come back and win, which they did. I'll give him credit for that, but. Get back in the game, Sammy. So, again, we're never going to call a guy out. We're going to do it here in a friendly way. We're not tweeting at Sammy Watkins. We're not tweeting at anybody. So it's going to be your weekly reminder. Don't be that guy. Maybe he was hurt. We're just having a little fun with it here. But got to send a KMA to Sammy Watkins. Scott, your KMA's here on this Wednesday evening.
Well, my first KMA is going to be to all the field goal kickers, all the kickers in the NFL. Man. For one, 120 yards, 2 last play losses for the Lions. So for the 120 yards of, I believe they said it's only the first time in the NFL a team has lost twice on the last play with 50-yard field goals or longer to lose. So, hey, Lions found a new way to lose. Of course, that's just the way we roll here in Detroit. But damn, how many field goals and extra points are you guys gonna miss too? 12 extra points, 13 field goals, just absolutely terrible. So all you kickers out there in the NFL, you can KMA for me. And by the way, Chris, I'm almost 50 years old, and I'm pretty damn certain I know I can make an extra point from 20-some yards. I even think I can make a 40-yarder, no problem, put it on the ground. So I don't know how the hell these dudes whose job it is can do that. So, hey, my old soccer ass can get out there and do it.
I smell a bet here. We are Woodward Bets, Scott, so we may have to go remote on one of these shows here coming up and see if you can actually kick this field goal, because you mentioned your age, so that's concerning. How many guys are in the NFL at 50 kicking field goals? Not many, and you seem pretty confident, though, so I'm smelling a bet here. But I agree with you. The kickers were rough. Hell, half of those misses came in my Green Bay-Cincinnati game. How many field goals were missed in that game alone? So I agree with that KMA. So anyone else here before we wrap up our KMA for this week?
Just because Jose Altuve, you can KMA, just because. It's baseball time. I think all of us were reminded of Jose, and I thought it was funny yesterday. They beamed him, and then the crowd was going nuts. Even more so than normal. It was like somebody hit a home run. They were cheering so loud, and then he comes up later in the game and got a little revenge back and smacked the 3-run homer put that one way out of reach, but. Yeah, I just kind of enjoy it. It's fun, poking fun. If I ever saw the guy personally, I would never bring up the cheating thing. I'd probably, give him his respect as a major league player. But as a fan, it sure is fun just to give him some crap. It's not, it's not like it's really too personal. Everybody's just giving him some shit. So I think it's a good time. But yeah, Altuve,
agreed.
KMA.
Yeah, you got to have some fun in this life. We only get one run at this thing. So just having a little fun there. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's transition into looking at some of the waiver ads this week, courtesy of RTS Sports. So the most acquired added players, and we'll take a look at the most released players as well and kind of give our thoughts if we agree, disagree. So top of the list, no surprise, guys, we've talked about Devontae Booker. Looks like he's going to fill in for Saquon Barkley here for a couple weeks. Daryl Williams. Looks like he's going to be the guy in Kansas City with CEH on the shelf. Kadarius Toney, a name we talked about. The guy just looks electric. So hopefully Jason Garrett does not hold him back. Hunter Henry, big game last week in Houston. So the tight end positions become difficult. David Njoku, another guy that's looked great, playing only about half the snaps, but looks electric. Khalil Herbert, a guy we talked about there in Chicago, pretty much split the carries with Damian Williams. So something to keep an eye on there. Carson Wentz finally has a big game at the quarterback position and come up short in that game at Baltimore, but he looks solid. Emmanuel Sanders just continues to defy the odds and look great in that Buffalo offense. Nick Folk at the kicking position, and, of course, Marquez Callaway, a guy that a lot of people dropped here the last couple of weeks, comes up with 2 touchdowns, including that crazy Hail Mary play at the half. So, Scott, a lot of guys we've talked about on this list, those running backs, obviously, there are a lot of injuries out there, whether it's Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. The list goes on and on. Can never have enough running backs. Toney, a guy, I'd be surprised if he's still out there, but if he is, I'd scoop him up. Those tight ends, very viable options as well, and even deeper bench stashes like Sanders, like Callaway. So a lot of value on the waiver wire this week, Scott. Anything there surprising you or guys that you surprised aren't on that list?
Yeah, I was surprised Callaway was on there. People must have saw them yards he caught with that Hail Mary and that touchdown pass to get him on there. But, man, when we had that clip up of all the players' pictures on there, I guess I never realized how intimidating this Toney guy looks. Damn, anybody got neck tats like that? I'm not messing with you. No way. So, yeah, he's an intimidating looking fella. I think I like him even more now. But, yeah, just some of the names, a lot of the names here that we kind of already went over here during the week. I was a little surprised to see Carson Wentz on here. He must not have been used too much. I know a lot of leagues, a lot of teams only keep one quarterback. So That I guess that's probably why he's on there. But yeah, that Tony guy, I think I'm going to have to start looking at him. He impressed me a little bit with that picture there.
He's electric, man. He really is. Get the ball in his hands and see what happens. So I agree with that one. Daryl Williams is definitely my top pickup. Not as ecstatic about Devontae Booker, especially with the matchup this week with the tough Rams D. Some of the receivers coming back there, so maybe he doesn't have as many opportunities in the passing game, but still worth a look. And I think Khalil Herbert, the under-the-radar guy there, really looked good for Chicago last week. So let's take a look at some of the drops. Not many surprises on this list here. Juju Smith-Schuster leading the way, unfortunately, going to miss the rest of the season. Trey Sermon didn't get any work. Elijah Mitchell comes back. Sermon had his couple weeks where he looks good, but clearly down the pecking order. Quintez Cephas, another injury here for Detroit. Max Williams, a guy that was playing really well with Arizona at the tight end position. Looks like he's going to be done for the year as well. Tyson Williams, he was great. Then he's inactive. Then he's back active on Thursday night. Just doesn't really do much there with Latavius Murray kind of leading the way. So he's being dumped. Kenny Goliday, this one's kind of surprising, Scott. I know he's dealing with an injury. I haven't seen how severe yet, how long he's going to be out, but it feels like a quick trigger to get rid of a guy like Kenny Goliday. So this is definitely the one that surprised me the most. Rodrigo Blankenship dealing with a little bit of an injury at the kicker position, didn't look right the other night. Robert Tonyan of my Packers has been a big disappointment, a guy that was fantastic last season, especially in the touchdown category, but just hasn't had a great connection with Aaron Rodgers, despite running a lot of routes and being involved. He just hasn't gotten a lot of looks, so can see why people are cutting bait there. Young Hoku, they are going on bye, I'm guessing is the reason he's on the waivers. And then Brandon Ayuk, kind of a surprise as well. I know it's been a rough road. He showed a little bit of signs of encouragement. And then so one step forward, then two steps back with Ayuk, unfortunately. But I would still be holding. So Goliday and Ayuk, Scott, kind of interesting to me, guys that I wouldn't be ready to drop just yet.
Yeah, I agree with the Goliday. I would definitely keep him, especially with all the injuries they have. Yeah, Goliday is definitely one of their premier players. So I wouldn't be quite ready to bail on him. And then Tyson Williams kind of surprised me too. I thought he might be just in the doghouse a little bit. That's why he was out. I think, it's probably an assignment type issue that he's missing that he probably has been scolded for. But, we saw him kind of get work back into the game. We obviously know he has a lot more upside. He seems to be a quicker player than Murray. So, I think maybe over time he could work his way back in, and then he's going to be back on that most picked up list, if you ask me. And Ayuk, yeah, you're right. He's a guy that I think a lot of us expected to, accumulate some touchdowns here, but definitely been a disappointment. So kind of can understand that, but I think I would have probably held on to him if I could have.
All right, let's wrap up today's show with a quick look at the NFL lines, and we will be digging into these more as we get closer to Sunday. Of course, tomorrow, come back and join us. We'll cover the Thursday night football game top to bottom. We'll give you some of our best bets for the game, some player props we like, and, of course, we'll cover it for a DFS perspective as well on FanDuel, DraftKings, Yahoo, wherever you may play. Underdog, so make sure you're playing over there as well. But Scott, let's take a look at the early lines here. That game, Tampa Bay, -6.5, -7. That one's jumped up a little bit. Total sitting at 52.5. London game this week, Miami and Jacksonville. So Jacksonville, pretty much London's team. They're always over there seemingly. So that line, -3.5, 47 on the total. We got Minnesota and Carolina. That one's kind of swung. Carolina started out as a favorite. It swung all the way over to Minnesota. -1. Green Bay's gone up a point to -4.5 at Chicago. Total in the Indy-Houston game has dropped a point, not surprisingly. The Rams and Giants, not a ton of movement there. We'll see what the injuries play out with the Giants. The Chiefs up to -7 now at Washington. Cincinnati's gone from -3.5 to -3 here in Detroit. Not any real line movement in that Chargers-Baltimore game. Total went way down. Arizona and Cleveland opened up at 54. All the way down to 49.5 there. Dallas and New England, this total's jumped up, which this one kind of surprised me. from 48 all the way up to 52. Dallas has gone from -2 to -4. No big line movement in the Raiders-Denver game. Pittsburgh has gone from -3 to -5 against Seattle. I think that has to do, obviously, with Russell Wilson not being available. And then no big line movement in that Monday Night Football game, Buffalo and Tennessee. So, Scott, anything jump off the page here? Anything we want to attack early? I like the under in that Dallas-New England game. So to see it jump up to 52 really makes me happy. I get a much better number than when it opened up. So just two teams that love to run the ball. Dallas been playing at a slow pace. It's not the electric offense we've seen. They certainly have that within their realm of possibilities, but they've done well with Zeke, with Pollard kind of controlling the game. We know New England wants to do the same and run the ball and win ugly. So 52 just feels way too high for that game.
Yeah, I think people are just looking at Dallas and New England, and just their brain is telling them it should be a higher scoring game. But you're right; both teams are really slow paced. They run at a slow pace. Dallas is one of the slowest in the league, especially when they have the lead. So, yeah, that one I could see that. I mean, bumping up 4 points. I mean, just looking at some of these line movements. Like you mentioned, the Minnesota-Carolina, that one totally flipped. That one's interesting. And then you got that game in London, as you mentioned. That started off 44.5. That bumped up to 47. I mean, when you start seeing line movements only in the first few days in by 2, I think that just goes to show you, especially, like, for example, if you are on the under of that Dallas-New England game, like you said, Chris, you're real happy. But if you're on the over, you best been getting in there on when that line came out on Tuesday. So, again, like we say, you wait till Sunday. These lines kind of have a way of leveling themselves out. So you kind of lose the edge you get. So don't be afraid to get in there on Tuesday and Wednesday and make some bets. That's kind of why we do this segment here, to kind of open up your perspective a little bit, to show you that these lines do change quite a bit. They bounce back and forth. And sometimes you can catch them at the right time. And, I know I mention a lot of times I like to look at some of these lines and get some 2-team teases in on certain numbers that I like, as I've mentioned, where I can use that full 6 points and go through, a couple key numbers. But yeah, a lot of big movement. I mean, 4 points to go up in that Dallas, New England. I mean, that's rare. You don't generally see a line jump up like that. And then even that Arizona Cleveland went from 54 down to 49.5. That's quite a bit of points as well. So, as you see, there had to be a lot of money coming in. Some people aren't believing that those lines, especially in that Arizona Cleveland, they're thinking that should be an under. I don't know if that's just because they feel that Cleveland at home, they're going to run the ball quite a bit and keep that clock moving. But yeah, that's where I like to get at. That's why I like doing this segment. I can almost tell you every time we get off this segment, Chris, I generally make a couple bets. And there's been a few times where I've saved myself a couple points, and it hasn't worked out yet where that 1 or 2 points has saved me winning from losing, but a lot of times it can happen. So definitely like reviewing these.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely opportunities. I loved every week before I even look at lines, and I'm no odds maker, but been around the game enough and kind of get an idea of where I think the lines are going to be at. And when I see a big discrepancy on things, I try to take advantage of it. Remember, the sharpest lines are going to be Sunday morning. That's when a lot of the action is going to come in and move things around. But some of the big whales love to come in early in the week, and that's why we see a lot of these line movements. So definitely an advantage to grabbing some of these early. So we'll try to identify ones that we like each and every week for you guys to get you that edge early on in the week. But again, for me, that under in that Dallas New England game. So I think that'll do it for today, Scott. We ran a little bit longer than normal here today, but thanks again to Josh Norris from Underdog Fantasy for joining the show. Make sure you guys get over there and use promo code WSN. Who doesn't love free money to use on Underdog? Be like Scott's buddy and turn that into some winnings. So a $10 deposit gets you a free $10 over there. Don't forget, Twitter, @Woodward Bets, and we want to hear from you. Our Friday show is dedicated to your guys' sit-start questions, things that you're torn on, any trades out there. Bye weeks are here, so things are going to get even more difficult in those fantasy decisions. So reach out to us at Woodward Bets, and we're happy to help you live on the show, answer your questions in your fantasy league. So, Scott, final thoughts for the people here on Wednesday evening.
Get out there and enjoy the weather is my final thought. I mean, we're not going to have too much more of this here before we get into that wintry mix in Michigan that we generally get. So I'm going to get out there after we get done with this and get outside and enjoy the weather and kind of enjoy the non-sports day that we have. So spend some time with the family and probably even get out to barbecue tonight. We'll have to see. But, yep, just kind of looking forward to being outside.
Love it, love it, love it. You know where I'll be, softball field tonight. No place I'd rather be on a fine Wednesday evening. So thank you again for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show, enjoyed the interview with Josh. And again, we'll be back tomorrow covering Thursday Night Football. We'll talk some MLB, and we'll continue to look at the lines in the NFL and see where we can find some edges. I promised a hockey bet here, so take this one with a grain of salt. Again, not a big hockey guy here, but I did find a line I like over on FanDuel. That's the under 6.5 goals in the Blackhawks Avalanche game. That number is 6 at a lot of different books, so you get 6.5 over at FanDuel. So that one stood out to me. So we'll make that our best bet and see how we do dabbling in the hockey. So thank you guys for listening. For Scott, for our boy Sawyer producing the show behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. We'll see you tomorrow.